Do I Really Have to Teach Reading by Tovani. Chapter 8, Assessment that Drives Instruction. Throughout our years in school, we've learned to associate the word assessment with tests, papers, projects, and most of all, grades. Students have been conditioned to think that doing well on these assessments is the only way to be successful in an academic environment, but Tovani challenges this notion in her classroom. She believes that there are many other ways that students can show their thinking and, more importantly, remembering what they've learned. Learning is a cumulative process that should be assessed constantly, not periodically. Tovani aims to assess her students' thinking in ways that inform her own teaching. Assessments don't always have to be in the form of traditional tests, which explore students' finite knowledge, because these tests don't encourage students to think differently. Instead, they should aim to recognize where students are succeeding and where they're falling behind, so that the teacher can find out what specific strategies need improvement. In order to get the students involved, she first has them set goals for themselves at the beginning of each quarter. These goals can vary between content areas and should be encouraged in all classrooms. For example, for an earth science class, a student's goal for the quarter might be to understand how different types of rocks are formed, but for an English class, their goal might be to be able to successfully draw conclusions from text and be able to make inferences based on what they've read. Here, we have drawn up a sample goal sheet of a student in an ESL class. The student chooses various social and academic goals in the beginning of each quarter. At the end of each quarter, the teacher responded and determined whether or not they thought the student had met their goals. For many students, this is an easy way to boost their grades that encourages them to better themselves in each content area and focuses on something that they may be struggling on. It is important to remind students about the goals throughout the quarter so that they can continuously work towards them. Another way that teachers can gain access to what's on their students' mind is through daily conversation calendars. In these calendars, students can write short notes or questions to the teacher and will receive the response back the next day for a whole week. It is great for the students because it gives them an opportunity to communicate with the teacher in a more private and personalized manner. Conversation calendars are graded out of 20 each day, once by the student as self-assessment and once by the teacher as their actual grade. This is another great way for teachers to pad students' grades that encourages them to show their thinking. Teachers then have the opportunity to structure their lessons based on what their students ask them and tell them. Though conversation calendars are great communication tools, it's best to only assign them once in a while so that students value them more when they get the chance to use them. In this particular conversation calendar that we've modeled, the student communicates in a variety of ways. She raises concerns such as whether or not she'll actually need math in the future, not being able to keep up with the class, not being comfortable with specific material, and about her grades. On a day that she did understand something, she made sure to let her teacher know. These are all important to the teacher because it gives them a general idea of how well their students remember previous material and whether or not they're understanding new concepts as the year progresses. If other students' entries are similar to this one, this teacher might want to consider restructuring her lessons to include more review before she ends up like this teacher. Another activity Tovani recommends is a reading response log, which requires students to apply the strategies they learn in class to texts that they choose themselves. These strategies could include activation of background knowledge, questioning of the text, drawing conclusions and making inferences, monitoring comprehension and applying fix-up strategies, and determining what is important in a text. The texts don't only have to be books for English class. They can be samples from any content area, such as historical primary documents, scientific articles and journals, chapters of your math textbook, or short articles written in another language. This activity also gives teachers an opportunity to assess their thinking in a variety of ways. They can see what type of text the students are interested in, and how well they can take what they learned in school and apply it to their personal reading. Not only does this assess student abilities, it instills good reading habits in them that will lead them to become better readers overall. In the long run, practicing good reading habits will help students throughout their lives, not just in high school. Throughout the year, it's good to get to know the students through continued interaction in the classroom. It may not seem like it, but assessing students through quick, personalized conversations can really help the teacher gain a better understanding of who they are, rather than through their assignments alone. Teachers should keep a portfolio of samples of students' writing from various types of assessments. Collectively, these samples showcase students' strengths and weaknesses, how they think, and how much they progress throughout the year. Now at last, we've reached the end of our road with Tovani as far as this book goes, but she does not leave us without a few last words of advice. In the chaos of our lives and careers, we have to remember to embrace everything that we are teaching our students. It matters that we see how important it is to offer students the opportunity again and again to take us up on the chance to think hard about the world around them. Though we may be experts in our own content areas, there will always be something new to learn. As her mentor once told her, the best teachers are never satisfied because they're always looking for better ways to teach their students. It's a far better thing to have a thinking teacher in the classroom than a technician distributing worksheets.
Admit you love the Feeney call. Now I have a feeling we're not going to be together that much longer, so you've got to admit it before it's too late. Mr. Feeney? Mr. Feeney! Mr. Feeney! Mr. Feeney!
Was going on the radio that night to announce the end of the war. And I went home and asked my father if I could stay up with him to hear the president. You know what he said?
I'm guessing it's either yes or no, but we both know how well I do on multiple choice.
He said, tomorrow's a school day. I don't want you up with me.
So you're saying your dad really knew the value of education?
I'm saying my father didn't want me hanging around with him and his drinking buddies. As a result, the next day at school, I was rested, fresh, and ready to learn.
I see your point, Mr. Feeney.
No, I don't think you really do, Corey. What do you suppose I learned in school that day?
I know this has got to be a biggie like the Magna Carta or something. I have no idea what you learned that day.
Neither do I. You see, Mr. Matthews, education is not about obscure facts and little test scores. Education is about the overall effect of years of slow absorption, concepts, philosophies, approaches to problem solving. The whole process is so grand, all-encompassing, that it really can't be threatened by the occasional late-night no-hitter. I love the Feeney call.